Welcome back to Beyond the Helmet. And of course, that's hashtag BTHpod if you're following on social media. I'm your host, Steve McGrath, and today I get to chop it up with someone that I really enjoyed when I was a young kid, middle school, high school, watching him on the Washington Redskins. It is former NFL wide receiver Darnerien McCants. Coach McCants, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
I'm doing great. And of course, I'm calling you coach because in your time since being in the NFL, you have pivoted toward being a trainer and a legitimate coach too, certainly in track and field for, what it's been at least a decade now.
Yes. For the most part, when I finished playing, I think it maybe been about a year, maybe 2 years, but I realized the athletic side of it is part of my DNA. So, always been around athletes, just team oriented, just the camaraderie, the fellowship of being around, just the sports. I had to go back to it, and that was the only way I could get to it without playing.
Now, as time went on, certainly now it seems like you're working with younger kids. I don't know, would you say it's normally high school, middle school age?
I'm all ages, so it just depends on what season and what year and where people call me. I consider myself the male Mary Poppins. I just go where the wind blows me, and I help who I need to help. So I feel I have a purpose. So I don't think I'm necessarily a permanent spot, but I'll be blown into certain situations, stay there 3 or 4 years, and then I'll move to a different spot.
Very cool. So a lot of guys would gravitate toward, if you're a former wide receiver, football or wide receiver specific training, but it seems like you're pretty general. So why, because of course, maybe you didn't know back in 2009 what exactly you were going to do, but as time evolved, how did you make the decision that this is this is the type of coach that you wanted to be?
I wanted to be a teacher since I was 12. I started coaching when I was 13. So I worked in my first job legally, illegally. I worked at a spot called the Spring Sports Club. Now I was, I almost say breaking in. I found my way into this building quite often, because my friends all had memberships. I didn't have a membership, and we would go up to the place, and basically it was a gym. And, I didn't lift weights or anything, but I played basketball. So it was an indoor facility. And my friends would get in and they would push the door open and I would somehow find my way in there. And then eventually, they would kick me out or say, we're going to call the cops, and I would just leave and come back the next day. And then one guy, Mr. Kevin Robinson, was like, hey, man, if you come in here, you're going to have to clean up. You can't just come in here for free. And I was like, that's it? You just need me to clean up? He was like, yeah. So about 2 years, from about 12 to 14, I would go to the gym every day, tell him I'm with Mr. Robinson, and they let me in, and I would have to clean up the facility, and then he let me play basketball until, I had to leave. And then eventually I started working there. But legally at 14, and I pretty much worked there till almost graduated college.
Wow. So, yeah, I have to ask, clearly it's a passion. So given everything you did as a professional athlete, how much did that impact how you coach and develop kids versus you already had this passion, you always wanted to do it? How much did being an athlete impact your ability to utilize that leverage, that life experience? Or did basically everything you're doing, would you have sort of learned that anyway, just to make sure that you could do your passion and have that fulfillment to pursue it?
As a person, I think it's always been there, but now the leverage of the celebrity.
Sure.
Because if I just come in as a 21-year-old, 22-year-old college graduate, and I'm just teaching and coaching, that's normal, that's regular. I may listen to you, I may not listen to you, because I was a teenager who really didn't listen. But now, if you said you had some kind of greatness attached to you, I'm now all ears, because I was looking to be great. I was looking to be the best. I wanted the best information. Whatever you can give me the best, that's what I wanted. Because, I was kind of in some situations where the school would provide people. They were like, well, this person was on drugs. This person did this and this person did that. And this is what you shouldn't do. I was always the kid that's like, why do y'all keep bringing me people who aren't successful? Bring me success so I know what it looks like. Bring me success so I know what to follow. I already know what not to do. That's easy. Trust me, I can get in trouble. That's very easy. But you haven't shown me how to be successful. And just going to school and getting good grades isn't necessarily a means of success. So, that was always my deal. So as I got older and being the big brother, I wanted to say, no matter what, you can follow me. No matter what, I am successful. You want to get to this level? This is how I did it. I know a path. You can try it, and let's see if it works for you also.
I love it. It makes so much sense. I don't understand why more schools don't try similar approaches instead of having the speaker that was a drug addict for 10 years come in and say, hey, look what can happen. Try to get someone that's really gone out there and done something. So that being said, as someone that went out there and did something, thinking about, I guess the good thing about the Redskins having a tough time while you were there is you were exposed to a lot of different coaches and a lot of different styles. So, glass is half full, not half empty. Who, when you think back on it, kind of left the biggest impact on you? All the different coaches, whether it's a head coach, positional coach, that, now as you're trying to be that role model, does anyone stick out in particular?
As far as the pro level, I'm going to say Coach Schottenheimer. Coach Schottenheimer and Coach Mann. So Coach Mann was my position coach, and I take pride in that because Coach Mann only coached wide receivers, and I was one of his picks. So if you have the top guy only doing one thing and he picks you, that says a lot. At first I didn't understand it, but like I said, as I've gotten older, now that's pride. Coach Schottenheimer, he picked me because of my character. So that lets me know that he told me straight up. He said, hey, do you think I picked you because you could play football? He was like, it's 400, 500 kids that can play football. I picked you because of your character. I know I can rely on you. I know what you bring to the table, and football is just part of it. So those two guys would stick out the most as far as my character, my element of football coming into the league.
That makes a ton of sense. And, I kind of jumped right into the football days, but if I have this right, I mean, you talked about playing basketball. At what point did you really have to make a decision to let basketball go in order to pursue this football thing? Because I'd imagine maybe it was hard if you were that good at basketball and you loved it to kind of give that up to try out this other thing.
No, I can't say it was hard because I'm going to say I take the easy path in certain circumstances. I was an athlete. I played football, basketball, and ran track every year that I was eligible. So if my mother said I could run and jump, I would run and jump. But I played basketball 4 years. I played football, only had one varsity season, but I played 2 years of JV. And it wasn't until my senior year that, my parents didn't have the information. So we didn't understand the SATs and we didn't understand the clearinghouse. So we got all that information literally probably the year I walked on to Delaware State. So it was just a matter of taking advantage of the opportunity, because for me, it was just getting out of my mother's house. Like you said you saw some of the videos. That was a real issue for me, getting out of my mother's house. So no matter what, I had to get out. And if you tell me you're going to give me money to play a sport, I didn't care. Whether it's football, basketball, track, soccer, volleyball. If you said you was going to give me money for free education, I was gone, because the athletic side was the easy side. That's what I know I did well. Academics, that took a little bit more work and patience and discipline. But the athletic side, working out, lifting weights, running, having fun, who turns that down?
And if I have this right, you were a high jump champ in track in high school. So, I mean, basically, you had, I would imagine you would have been on the radar of NCAA teams, but you had to walk on to Delaware State. Is that all related to not really understanding the clearinghouse and how basically that almost like the business side of getting into college sports worked?
Of course, that's a major factor. Considering I'm a county kid and I didn't get this information, and unfortunately, it's still going on because I'm back in the school system now. You got kids who don't have a clue, even though we have these things called computers that in the palm of our hand, don't have a clue about how to get into college. They think they can just still go. And I'm like, 30 years of information shouldn't still get lost. But my situation was I went to 3 different high schools also. So if anybody was looking at me, I wouldn't have known because my grades wouldn't have shown up. So like I said, I don't think I took the SATs until almost, like I said, the year I walked on to Delaware State. So within that summer of '96, that's when I probably passed the SATs because Dayton, Ohio, the basketball, the Dayton Flyers, that was the biggest university that was going to bring me in for basketball. And they needed me to get a 920 on SATs. So when I finally got all that, everything had kind of flushed itself out. But also, you still have high school coaches. My coach handed me a box of letters after I already signed at Delaware State. So you still have that going on where the coaches either don't know or don't care to give the athletes the information.
Wow. So I don't want to say that the business side of sports has been a pain considering what you just said, but I wanted to also ask about the NFL side of your career because, again, the different coaches, the business-like element to a new coach coming in is those coaches want guys that fit their scheme and guys that they trust. And like you have Schottenheimer 1 year, Spurrier comes in, Joe Gibbs comes in. You go to Philly, it's a whole brand new set of problems. How, when you look back on it all, I'm sure you could talk for hours about it, but, what taste is left in your mouth about what the business side of the sport did to, like, it's a sport. It should be something that you love to do.
I still love the sport. Like I said, for me, by the age 25, I had been through enough more than people who were 50 as far as business wise. So for me, I loved it. I just wish I would have got the information sooner. I believe I could have played longer. Like I really wanted to play up until I was 32. Like I had a certain goal to play 10 years barring if I didn't get any major injuries. Like that was one of my goals. I can say I probably didn't accomplish, but I also was losing the passion for the game. But if I know it was more business like the way I am now, I know I have to work. I have a family to feed. It's not about if I like to or if I'm comfortable or how is what's the weather outside. It's I understand my responsibility and I know I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. If I had more of that understanding sooner, I play football longer. But everything I did up until that point was all about passion. The reason I sang, the reason I danced, the reason I played sports was because I loved it. It was a passion for me. But if somebody would say, and I told B. Mitch this, and it's Brian Mitchell, who should be in the Hall of Fame, by the way. I said, dude, if I met you when I played longer because he told me to think long term. As young people, we're thinking short term. And unfortunately, coming from Baltimore City, I never thought I'd live past 21 in the first place. So I never thought that I'd make it to 43 years old. So I'm just getting what I can get while I can get it, have fun. And if I live the next day, great. And if not, great. I did it while I could. So for me now, I'm trying to change that mindset of myself still, as well as the young folks, because it's still a mentality of get money, spend money, get money, spend money, show off this versus, okay, what are you going to do when you're 40? Because I still feel young. I don't feel old and decrepit and like, oh, my neck, my shoulders, I can't pee. I can't, I ain't got them problems yet. So, when you're 40, 50, you're still able to do a lot, but are you thinking long-term? Are you just thinking, okay, I got to get this money right now and I got to spend and show this money right now? And coming from where I come from, even from the suburbs, who and when are we taught about money? Finances, and then the other part, they don't tell you about the white collar crimes or how many athletes get robbed by people every day. Once again, nobody pushes that agenda and trying to get these and weed these people out when they're robbing these little, 23 and 24-year-old people out of millions of dollars.
Totally. Now, the one thing you said about what Brian Mitchell had said to you, the only question that I have on that is if you had, as a 21-year-old, met him, would you have listened? It's what hindsight always gives us the clarity, but it's just, even if like a 21-year-old gets the right information or even younger, they still have to listen to it and internalize it. And I think that's a big problem for people in general. Like today's culture, just like that's not how teenagers think.
Well, I'm gonna say for me, yes, because if you were my age, I realized you were stupid as me. So I've always told my friends that. I'm like, dude, we're all dumb. We haven't lived long enough. I've always respected life. Like I've always listened to my grandfather, my grandparents. They went through a whole nother life I can't imagine. My grandfather was a sharecropper. I can't imagine that. I can't understand that. My grandmother, my mother, they went through Jim Crow. I can't understand that. I read about it. They try to make it seem like it was far away. My mother's still living. So, it's just a matter of I always respected age and things that you've gone through because I personally, like I said, I like the easy way. I'm going to try to avoid it. I don't want to go through those same problems. I don't want the same problems. Like, okay, you said not to do that. I'm not going to do it, because they kept telling me how smart I was because I didn't spend my money. I didn't need anything. I didn't want anything. I'm not necessarily a materialistic guy. I've never been a money guy. That's why when they offered me the money, I was like, I've never had that much money. Sure, that sounds fine. But, contractually, I should have had more money. But it is what it is. But like I said, live, learn. And the fact that I feel that I'm a teacher, now I'm supposed to let the next generation know, get your worth. Make sure, shoot higher than your worth. So you get the value that you really, truly deserve.
Absolutely. Now, I think, like you just said, you should have made more money while playing, but also because I think you were far more capable of producing on the field than what you were really given a chance to. And I don't know if that's certain coaches feeling a certain way about you. Is it just a bad scheme thing with all the different coaching changes? Like there's a million things that it could have been, but
no, I can tell you. No, I didn't know football. I was the best athlete on the field. And I knew that. I didn't know football. I didn't understand football because all I did was play basketball. So in high school, I told them, just throw me the ball, I'm gonna score, and I'll block for the rest of the game. I've never been a selfish player. So I would score every first down or every first quarter, and then block for the rest of the game because I felt blocking was fun. I get to beat people up. I get to be a bully. And that's why I didn't realize how aggressive I was either. But then in college, I played tight end. Wherever you need me to play, I played. And then when it got to the league, it was okay. This is what you don't know a West Coast offense. No, I played in a modified wing T for 2 years. I don't know what the West Coast offense is. I know what a cover 3, what a cover 2 looks like, but I don't know what a cloud looks like. I don't know what a dog blitz is. Nope, I didn't have that information. So but if you threw me the ball, I was going to score, coach, because I knew that was the end result that you wanted. So I might have been in the wrong place, but if you threw it in my area, I was going to catch it, and I was going to attempt to score. So I know my situation. But as I grew, like I said, I can say shout out to Kevin Lockett if he's still around, because he helped me. Smoot, Daryl Green, Champ, they realized I didn't know football. I was winning because of my athleticism.
Talk about 3 phenomenal corners to learn from. I mean, Champ Bailey and Daryl Green, particularly. Nothing against Fred Smith, but I mean, 2 of them are Hall of Fame players. So ultimately, then, would you say that your career lasting as long as it did, battling through that learning curve, is that more players helping you or more coaches helping you try to be the best pro?
It was the players because they could see me.
Yeah.
No, the coaches, from my perspective, the coaches were looking for something traditional. I'm not traditional. My thought process, the way I analyze things, I'm a thinker. So I'm slow motion in practice. But when it comes to a game, I've already thought about every scenario that's going to happen in the game. So I'm going to win because I've already watched that guy 100 times on the film. I know his feet are going to be. I know where he sits on the line. I know when he sits down and how he looks in. I've studied the guy. So now come game time, I'm just reacting. It's no longer a thought process. Not all coaches agree with that. So eventually they started calling me a gamer because the best quote from Champ ain't speak much, but he was like, dude, you're the only receiver I believe will drop every ball in practice and catch every ball in the game. And that's what I did because I'm like, I'm not thinking in the game. And I really don't recall many games because I think that was the athlete that it clicked over. In practice, I can recall a lot of practices and what people said, but I was always thinking and trying to come up with different scenarios and trying to figure out, okay, if I do this, if I do that, and and then of course I had to go against champ every day. So if your name didn't have Bailey on the back of it, when I stepped on that field, you was a what they say, barbecue chicken, like my man Shaq say.
Because you didn't have great quarterbacks or necessarily great coaches either. So I didn't know if you felt hampered by scheme or anything else, but very clearly you sort of outlined that it was more you mentally being in a spot where you fully could understand, like just working through practice versus games and getting your IQ up. So it's just, you think about what could have been with you in the offense or even you going over to Philadelphia, having a chance to basically take the number one spot when T.O. leaves. But as the papers put it, you just didn't like to play special teams. That was the reason, right? It was all about special teams. And of course, I'm joking because we know that's not true.
Yeah. No, that was the situation when Coach Gibbs came in. For whatever reason, Danny Smith didn't like. I don't know why, because I love Danny. And I liked his scheme, and I like how he approached the game. And so when he didn't play me, I just started studying him. So Danny was very intelligent and particular in his way of special teams because I always like special teams. Because special teams, there's no thought process. So that's why for a person like myself, it was great because I don't have to think. It's either get to the ball or protect the ball. It's not much to think about. And then, like I said, being an athlete, I generally won 9 times out of 10. They may not have liked how I did it, but I will win. But far as the Eagles, nobody can tell me that situation. When T.O. left, I was the best receiver there. It's not even a question. It was 4:15. I talked to Jamal Jackson. Jamal was like, "Yeah, man, I think you're gonna make it." 4:20. The guy calls me, and I don't know who it was. He says, "I don't even know what to tell you." And I was like, "I know you're not calling me for a signing bonus, so I'll be in there to get my stuff and leave." But like I said, the players knew I could play. And it hurt and felt good at the times when guys would see me later at the Pro Bowl or whatever, just hanging out. He was like, "Hey, we could have used you, man." Like, those were bigger compliments than any of these coaches have ever said anything to me. Now, if the coaches even know or even cared, who knows? But like, a lot of times, like I said, that's where the politics and the business comes in because the coaches really don't care. You're another dude that's going to come through. They got to coach you up so they can maintain and keep their job.
Yeah. Well, Coach McCants, I know we're starting to get to the end of our time, so I wanted to do a hard pivot to talk about the Finding Me Foundation. About a year and a half, I know you launched it, so I want to make sure that we have a chance to talk about, you are a coach working with kids, but clearly, as you've already stated, the age of 12, you wanted to be a teacher. You've launched this foundation to be able to help. I believe, if I have this right, it's combating juvenile delinquency, obviously focusing on reading. Can you just talk a little bit about what's behind that?
It's called the Finding Me Foundation because I didn't read well when I was growing up. And I think that played a major factor in my comprehension. So if you can't comprehend, you don't pay attention. So once I started looking up the stats of just children being able to read by the 4th grade, if you can read on a level to above level by the 4th grade, you're pretty much good for the rest of your high school career. But many kids are getting lost, and mainly boys are getting lost before the 3rd grade because boys are more gross motor skills. We don't want to sit down and read. I don't like to read. It's not enough pictures. But the trick to that is we have to give them what they need. The thing that kept me reading was National Geographic. I loved animals. And guess what National Geographic has on every page? Pictures. And then I want to know about this animal. Why does this animal do this? What kind of, it kept me moving. And then I had to figure out these words that obviously most people don't use in the first place. So that's what kept me moving. So, and then of course, with the Reading Rainbow with LeVar Burton, then you also have people who look like you reading. Most of the time in school settings, you'll have women teachers. Not all of them may look like you. So then there's that disconnect again. So now we have this group of kids who aren't getting connected by any way, so they're disconnected. So now they're behavior issue. Now they're behavior issue. Now we have disciplinary issues. Now we got to put them on a 504. Now we got to put them in an IEP. So we've slowed this intelligent genius down, not knowing how to take care of them. So with my program, what I'm doing is trying to come in, get mainly these boys moving up and excited and just attempting to read. And once they start to understand how the mind works when they learn these new words and how they can articulate and comprehend better, they'll be more successful. So that's pretty much, I would say in a nutshell, but what the foundation is based off of.
So cool. I mean, it's the biggest thing you can do is try to help kids and get the next generation, better off than we were, which isn't to say we had it bad, but to always perpetually help the next ones up I think it's the biggest thing you can do. So do you have anything set up? So if anyone wanted to check it out or see if they could help at all, is there any way that we can do that?
Yes, I need money. Send me a whole bunch of money. Go to www.findingmefoundation.org. I believe that's the correct. I don't know if my dots and my @ are in the right place. But if you look for my name, Darnerien McCants Foundation, it'll definitely come up, and that's DARNERIN, or the Finding Me Foundation. It should come up. And then like I said, you can donate there, because the next phase is I want to do a deal with dyslexia. What I'm finding out is a lot of juvenile delinquents actually have dyslexia. They're getting misdiagnosed or not diagnosed at all. So I want to be able to take certain kids and get them at least checked out to see, if that's a major issue and why they do not read well. And if that's, and for whatever reason, it costs a lot of money to get these tests.
Well, all right. We'll have to get the information out there so that people can help the cause. It's certainly something that, again, I don't think there's a more noble cause than trying to help anyone that, for whatever reasons, underprivileged, particularly kids, getting them to a spot where they can be successful and live a happy life, have a happy family. So, man, I know we're running a little long. I wanted to just end this on the gauntlet. I got a couple quick questions for you. I need your knee-jerk reaction to just a few things. Man, if you want to win a football game today, even the Super Bowl, which is this game right around the corner, what's more important? Would you rather have the number one offense or the number one defense?
Number one defense.
All right. And since I mentioned it, who do you think is going to win on Sunday?
Ooh, my brother is a Bengals fan, so I gotta go with the Bengals.
Okay. If you were on Washington a couple years later, you would have had McVay. There are so many good coaches that the Shanahan crew brought in. If only. Now, pregame, was there anything that you had to do?
Pregame. Oh no, yeah, the guys used to kill me because I'm an R&B guy. So I would actually be singing love songs before my pregame. Don't ask me why, but I can focus in. It slows my mind down, and then it works on my breathing. So when I'm generally warming up, I'm singing also. So just imagine 6'4", 215 pounds of man muscle singing love songs with a whole bunch of other men around. But that's what I pretty much did, and it would just slow me down. Then I would get to a place where I would almost fall asleep, and I never figured it out. But then when it was time to go, I rode. But that was pretty much my my routine.
I love it. That's a different one. Definitely a different one. A first on the show.
I told you I was different, man.
Now, you did say that, like, in terms of games, it was kind of a blur. But do you have a favorite football memory? It doesn't have to be in the pros, but does anything really stick out for you as a moment, whether it was in a game or just practice in the locker room? Anything stand out?
Oh yeah, no, I got my moments. My college moment is my last game. Was versus A&T. A&T was ranked in the nation for their defense, and I scored 5 touchdowns on them for my last game at Delaware State in our home stadium. So that was my first one, the one that I remember, and I got so emotional. I had never been this emotional before, where I was laughing and crying at the same time. The fact that we had beat them, we had a winning season, and it was my senior year, and I was never going to play football again. I didn't know I was going to the pros. And then pros, obviously, Shane Matthews posts my first touchdown. and Indianapolis coach, deep post, hit me across the middle. Those are probably my first ones. Then I got to shout Ed Reed and Chris McAllister because I didn't like them. They got on my nerves. I know we ain't play them often. I ain't play it, but as far as defense, Chris, big, fast, strong, aggressive, and could cover. And then y'all know Ed Reed was a problem all day, every day. So those probably my memories because I was like, dude, why are you still here? Like, that's the only thing I can remember saying to Chris. I was like, "What? How are you still here, man? I'm like, you're too big to be this strong and this fast." And I couldn't stand them. You know, the Battle of the Beltway. Those were fun.
I don't think he gets enough credit. I think with Ray Lewis, Ed Reed being on that team, that for some reason McAllister kind of gets lost in the mix. But he was a problem for a long time.
He got on my nerves. I don't know, if he got on anybody else's nerves, but I just know. I was like, man, I'm not even number one receiver, man. Go play the number one receiver. Like, get away from me.
Well, last one for you, and I think it's the most important. Given everything we've talked about, there's a lot of advice sort of throughout this conversation, but what's the one best piece of advice that you would give to, I don't know if it matters if they're middle school, high school, they're old enough to understand, what they want to do and where they want to go. What would you say to them to help them live their best life?
If it's on all levels, structure, discipline, consistency. And then I found out consistency goes along with persistency. So you need those 4 things to be successful because you need structure, show up to school, go to school consistently every day because it's teaching you discipline. And then you have to be persistent because you're going to have challenges. If you can't consistently go through and beat these challenges, it's hard to be successful. And if you don't have challenges, what's the purpose? If life is too easy and you avoid all challenges and all that stuff, you will never grow. So that's why, like I said, when I see things, I'm going to put a lot of, pressure on myself because every day you have a choice, and then of course I can finish. It's a great day to be alive. It's always a great day to get better. So those would be the things I would tell anybody on any level: consistency, discipline, structure, and persistency.
Sounds like a coach. I think you're doing the right thing working with the youth. It's coachmccants.com. And of course, we talked about the Finding Me Foundation. Is there any other place that our audience should go to check out what you're doing, website or social media?
Well, yeah, you can find me on all social media. Everything's under Coach McCants. So I've kind of, left Darnerian alone. I was a younger guy. Now I'm Coach McCants, the mild-mannered gentleman, coach, great citizen, model citizen. That's who I am today.
Age has a funny way of doing that to a lot of us. Coach, thank you so much for taking the time, man.
All right. Thank you.